Well, welcome to Seattle. Actually, I'm still in Minnesota. The weather's like Seattle, though. It's just cold and rainy outside. And so, anyway, this is Jason with End the Simpademic, um, Chilly Tuesday Night Edition. And I want to talk about something that, a little bit about my past here. And it's why the black pill channels thrive. So here goes. I was I've mentioned this before on this channel, but I did go to a different church for a short while and found myself in a situation where I actually asked a lady out to brunch, and she told me she had a boyfriend, and I thought that was the end of it. But turns out I get back to it later on, and it turns out I found out eventually that she had reported me to the church staff for harassment, which in this case was definitely a false accusation because I took very careful care to make sure that she didn't feel like she was being harassed. For example, I didn't back her into some dark corner or anything like that to make the approach. I actually did it in a very open foyer with a lot of people walking through. So if she did feel like she was uncomfortable, help was very easily available at the moment. But no, she didn't do that. And this is another case of a woman falsely labels a harassment allegation towards a man just for merely approaching and asking for a date, or in this case, brunch. And I get back to the black pill channels. The reason why those thrive is because a lot of the situations that they post, as far as putting modern women into a box is concerned, some of those situations have really happened. And in my case, it was legitimately real. And fortunately, I think because of the fact that she knew that there was no basis to make that type of accusation, it never went to law enforcement, which is the first tip off right there that this was a false accusation, only because I was not 6 feet tall and I was not ripped and simply didn't look like a top 10% guy. I still don't. But that's okay. That was the point I decided I still level up in my life as best as I can, but I decided that was my last ever approach of a woman for a date. It's just not going to happen again. Because I have to protect myself, because the next time they may actually report me to law enforcement. And the reason why how I even figured it out that it happened this way to begin with was I simply pressed the staff repeatedly, didn't get any answers, and eventually grudgingly came out one day. They started pressing a harassment campaign of their own against me to try to get me to leave on my own, because they needed to get me out of that building, because I think they were afraid of legal ramifications from both sides. The fact that she was pressing a false accusation on the one front, and on the other front, I think deep down inside that particular church's staff sort of knew that there was no basis. It was a completely baseless accusation, but they couldn't run the risk of having me still around there to potentially file legal action of my own. And so that's it. I am not ever approaching a woman asking for a date ever again. And the reason that the black pill channels again succeed is because a lot of the situations that they post out there are, do happen in spots. Now, do I think these are widespread situations? No. Do I think every man that approaches a woman gets rejected with a false harassment accusation? No. But unfortunately, in my case, it was very real. And so it made me very, 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 it made the black pill channels very appealing to me, because that was my truth. For a lot of guys, those things are kind of dopamine hits and validation of pity parties. But in my particular case, it was a very legitimate incident. And So I would just say that if you go onto these channels like Cosmic Verse, Men Only, Manhood, the Black Pill channels, which are faceless channels, by the way, that have no accountability because we don't know who produces them. The only people who knows who produces the content is YouTube itself, because they have to write the checks and make the deposits to the person, to whoever it is that's cashing in on them. But the content is AI generated. The narration is usually AI generated as well. It can't be tracked or connected to any one individual. But it works because in some cases, some of the things that they say about modern day women are legitimately true, such as the street interviews with women who are saying that they need a man who makes at least $400,000 a year. Forget $100,000. They've upped the ante to $400,000 a year. They need to be at least 6'4". Unfortunately, these women make make it too easy for the Black Pill channel creators. And obviously they do it because they want to go viral and they want to make money of their own. But they're hurting everybody's cause in doing so. And so are women like this one at this particular church who level false accusations against me. They're ruining it for everybody. Anytime I see a video nowadays of women asking why men don't approach anymore, I like to drop a comment and I like to say, you know what, I'm why. Because the next one could involve me having a police escort in a pair of silver bracelets. Because there have been cases where, women, it's rare. Those are rare situations, but they do happen. And I have to protect myself against those. So that is my little spiel for tonight here. Again, I don't approach anymore. I just don't. For this reason, she has to find me. And I'm looking inside of a very narrow range, because if women can be picky superficially about their future partners, I can be narrow focused for very legitimate reasons. Because I need a woman who has been through it herself. We would both need to be in that top 1% of people in the U.S. in terms of life adversity and overcoming against long odds. Sit back and think about it for a second here. How powerful of a combination would that be? Don't think too hard, because you probably shouldn't have to. But if she's been through everything possible in terms of adversity and has overcome and gotten herself out and through the other side every time, that's the kind of woman I want. There's so few out there who can meet that. And in this case, it's not their fault. It just doesn't happen that often. There are not very many people like me who have endured false harassment accusations at a church, who have endured being a survivor of one of the largest cults in American history. I have also, I've noted many times here, that I've overcome a near fatal traumatic brain injury. Came out of it 4 years ago. I'm still physically dealing with some of the effects today. But for this reason, I work hard to level up my own life. And I want to make it so that I don't have to approach. They find me. And no, I'm not a 10, I'm not a 9 or an 8 or even a 7. As I've stated before here, if I'm generous, I'm a 6. And that's just because of all of everything that I've been through that even gets me to a 6. As far as physical appearance goes, I'm probably a 5 or maybe a 4. Now I'm going to the gym nowadays, a new boot camp gym, to try to find that out. Oh, and speaking of black pill content, I've also endured a situation at a gym very close to my house where where a woman was filming for TikTok to try to paint men in the gym as creeps. That's one thing that those channels will talk about all the time about the gym. And again, unfortunately for me, that has happened for real. And because of that, I wound up at my new wonderful boot camp gym. We're so busy and our trainers crack the whip so much that nobody would have time to film even if they wanted to. And actually, they very much ban it as a whole. If you live in the Twin Cities, I will drop it in the comments below, drop your profile. Let me know and I'll point you in that direction if you're in the northern Twin Cities metro. Because this is a place I strongly believe in. Very, very strongly. I will give you their name and I will gladly point you their way. And I would hopefully see you there at some point. Because it's a safe place for everybody. We need more gyms like this that are safe places for both the men and the women. We need women who need to feel safe with not being creeped on for real. As I've said in various episodes before, there are some men who really are creeps. But then we also need men to be safe, not being filmed for some TikToker and be painted as a creep falsely online. So again, if you're in the northern metro of the Twin Cities, I have a wonderful place I would love to share with you. I'm not going to put their name out here, but at least not on this episode. So anyway, get some rest tonight, every folks. That's what I'm going to try to do. As soon as I get done uploading this, I am off to bed. It's about 10 o'clock Central Time at the moment. Looking forward to getting some rest and getting ready to take on the day tomorrow. So anyhow, this is my rant for the day. This is Jason on the Simpademic. Tomorrow will be the Hump Day edition. I don't know what I'm thinking of yet, but I'll come up with something as usual. You can count on me for that. So anyway, you folks have a great day, great night, and a great day tomorrow. Peace out, homies.